Hello everyone and welcome. This is an exclusive video I have made only for subscribers like you. There's a series of videos that I make every other week and I hope they are providing useful insights to you. But I want to hear from you your questions, comments or other topics that you want me to talk about in future. Just let me know. Send me an email or drop a comment. In this video, I will talk about the FDA's emergency use authorization process. Now, in the current COVID-19 crisis, you might have heard how FDA has very quickly authorized many different diagnostic tests or other medical devices such as ventilators or N95 respirators, remote monitoring units, decontamination systems, blood purification devices. The list is long. So they have done it very, very quickly because this is a very serious crisis for us and we want to help as much as possible. Medical industry has a big role to play. Now, this EUA process applies to all different kinds of emergencies, and the purpose of this video is to make you aware of the process so you can plan whether you want to bring a product to market right now during this emergency or for future purposes. We're going to talk about 5 key facts in this particular video. Number 1, what is the legal authority for the FDA to be able to do this, and how does the process start? Number 2, what are the criteria FDA uses to make a decision about an EUA? Number 3, what are the different steps you have to take and what are some of the best practices around that? And 4 and 5 are more about limitations that you should be aware of about the whole process. So let's look into this. The legal basis for this authority comes from the amendment of Section 564 of the FD&C Act. In 2013, they came out with the Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Reauthorization Act, which gave the legal authority to the FDA during a public health, military, or domestic emergency involving chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear agents. These agents are also called CBRN agents. So what are some of the examples? We all know about COVID-19. Certainly millions of patients infected, hundreds of thousands of deaths. It's a crisis of great magnitude, global pandemic. But what about a nuclear meltdown or bioterrorism? A couple of years back, we had the anthrax scare or Ebola or Zika. There can be many more crises, natural disasters. So anything can happen at any time. So this particular legal authority allows the FDA to act quickly and bring products to the market that can help alleviate the problem. But keep in mind that this is very different from the IND or the IDE or compassionate use processes. This is very different. So how does the process start? It's really quite complex, but very coordinated among different federal agencies. It can come from Department of Defense or Department of Homeland Security or Health and Human Services Department, where these secretaries may decide that a potential significant emergency exists or is imminent, or they may have to quickly respond to something that has happened literally out of the blue. And then they work with the Human Health and Services Secretary, who would issue what they call an EUA declaration. That's what starts everything. And that gives the FDA Commissioner authority to issue these EUAs to medical products they believe will be useful during an emergency. And they also terminate the EUAs, and we'll talk about that in the next slides. So what are some of the criteria? FDA can authorize emergency use of unapproved medical product or an unapproved use of an approved medical product based on the following criteria. Number 1, is the current emergency or the CBRN involved in the current emergency is leading to life-threatening condition or disease? Certainly SARS-CoV-2 virus falls in that category because it has already caused hundreds of thousands of deaths. And people who are put on ventilators, sometimes they take days and they die on the ventilator. So these are life-threatening conditions. Number 2, the specific medical product, does it have sufficient evidence of effectiveness? Now the key word is sufficient. It's a trade-off. And that trade-off is determined by the risk-benefit analysis. It'll be done on a case-by-case basis. The burden of proof is lower than a typical approval or clearance process, but FDA certainly doesn't want to bring high-risk product in the market. And finally, are there any other alternatives? Now, it could be that there is an approved product in the market that could work, but the specific use which is required is not approved. Or maybe we have run out of supply, or maybe that product has contraindications for certain specific populations which are particularly affected by the crisis. For example, let's say immunocompromised individuals who are at a high risk in the current crisis. Current products may not work for them. So these are some of the criteria by which FDA will decide if a particular EUA should be granted or not. So what are some of the steps? Pre-EUA process is very, very important. Early engagement with the FDA to review a potential EUA for you. And this allows you to get feedback on available data. Let's take an example. Let's say you are working on an antigen test for COVID-19, and you believe your test can be used at home because it is so easy. However, FDA may be interested in looking at certain usability studies. So you may want to engage with them and propose your idea, get feedback to decide the scale and timing of such usability study before you actually commission it. Or you could negotiate a time frame in which your product can be authorized and you can supply this data later on. This kind of dialogue and engagement with the FDA is very important. Keep in mind that in an emergency, FDA is your partner. They have a vested interest in bringing safe and effective, sufficiently safe and effective products in the market quickly. So you're working with them. Take advantage of that. So when you decide that you are ready, now you have to prepare and submit. You have to have a summary that shows the intended use, target population, current approval status of your product. Maybe you're very close to getting an approval, and that could be very favorable for you. Available alternatives, safety and effectiveness data, risk-benefit analysis, available capacity, or planned expansion. COVID-19 vaccine is a classic example. There's no vaccine that exists out there, and many people are ramping up capacity right now. And that's a good plan to discuss with the FDA as you are discussing your EUA. Now comes the detail of the safety data, and it all depends on a case-by-case basis what FDA would want. So whatever available clinical data you have, you might have benchtop data, you might have in silico analysis, or you might leverage other studies done in the past that may be similar, not exactly the same, but similar. Effectiveness data, you should tell them mechanism of action. How does the technology work? More transparency, the better, because FDA is trying to evaluate risk-benefit. Preclinical testing, animal testing, diagnostic sensitivity or specificity based on, let's say, benchtop study or contrived samples, simulated clinical evidence, and user information about information relevant for the healthcare providers and the users, the end users, the patients. So you have to prepare this data package. Now, there are a lot more details. I'm just giving you a high-level view, and I'll give you a reference to the FDA guidance that you can download and review in detail. Let's talk about the limitations. It's limited time frame because it's terminated when the HHS secretary terminates the emergency, or FDA revokes an EUA if any of the criteria are no longer satisfied. Or it could be that the unapproved use of the approved product that was under emergency authorization is now approved, so there's no need anymore. There are examples of many N95 respirators that have been removed from FDA's authorization list, or let's say antibody tests that have been removed from the FDA's authorization list. So you have to keep in mind that there's a limited duration. That means you need to plan ahead. If you want to keep this product in the market, you need to plan ahead to get the approval or clearance in future and build your data package alongside the information that you're gathering during the emergency authorization. EUA is not a 510K or PMA. So it is not approval, it is not clearance. And once the EUA expires or revoked, the medical product cannot be legally marketed. Now, during this COVID-19 crisis, like any other large-scale emergencies, there are many unscrupulous manufacturers or suppliers who make unsubstantiated false claims that their product is registered or their product is approved. This is not a good idea because FDA will come after you. And sure enough, they have already issued 40 different warning letters to different companies. FDA is your partner. But don't forget, FDA is also a watchdog. They are responsible for ensuring compliance, and they give you very specific guidelines for labeling, advertising, and promotion while the emergency use authorization is in effect. So my recommendation would be to follow that to the letter. Do not try to make any false claims. And if you are interested in getting your product approved or cleared in future, this is actually a great opportunity for you to collect the information. In any event, FDA will require you to report adverse events during EUA. That's great information for safety and effectiveness and further studies to be planned for the pre-submission later on. So keep that in mind. Finally, here is the link that you can use to download the FDA guidance. It's a pretty big guidance, a lot of details. You can go to this website and download this guidance for more details. So we went through a lot, 5 key points. We talked about FDA's legal authority, how does the process start, 4 different criteria of issuance, what are the different steps, and it always makes sense to engage with the FDA on the pre-EUA phase. One thing to keep in mind is risk-benefit analysis. It's all a case-by-case decision based on risk-benefit. So your product may not have very high effectiveness. Case in point being a diagnostic instrument or a test could be 80% sensitive, but it can provide results very rapidly within 15 minutes at point of care. And that could be relevant because right now it's taking more than a week for these test results to come back. So there's a trade-off. And FDA may decide to put additional controls, additional user information, backup plans, and still allow your product to enter the market under an EUA. Very, very important to engage with the FDA during this phase. We also talked about limitations. FDA is not giving you an approval or clearance when they give you an EUA. So do not assume that you have approval or clearance just because you have authorization. I cannot emphasize it enough because it is happening all over the place. So I hope this is useful. And again, as I said before, please let me know what's on your mind, what kind of questions you are thinking about, and what you would like me to address in future videos. I really want to thank you for your continued interest and engagement. And I hope all of you are staying safe in these difficult circumstances.